Okay, everybody, stop what you're doing and pull out a dollar bill. What does it say on the top? Federal Reserve note, right? Morgan, why does it say that?
Because the Fed is really the sole controller of the currency. They're backing the value of the dollar. That wasn't always the case in the past.
If I remember correctly, don't they buy it from the mint? Like the mint creates it and then the Fed buys it.
That sounds right.
At like 5 cents a note, something like that.
Yeah. It's good business. You can get it. You and I should try to open that
We should
business.
try that.
That's a good one.
All right, so what did it say before it said Federal Reserve note then?
So we actually talked about this the other day. Not too long ago, I got some change, and one of the dollar bills felt different. It's hard to tell. Just the paper felt a little different. The color was a little different. At first, I thought it was probably a fake dollar, but I looked at it, and it was a 1957 dollar. It's in remarkably good condition. And at the top of it, rather than saying Federal Reserve note like your dollar, most dollars do, it said silver certificate. And at the bottom, it says $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. So back in the day, you could actually take your cash to the U.S. Treasury and exchange it for silver. Now, that's obviously not the case anymore. That hasn't been the case since,
but I'd like to see you try.
Since the early 1970s. You could try to do it. But the U.S. currency used to be backed by physical commodities like gold and silver. And now it's really just backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. So that's why it says Federal Reserve note rather than silver certificate.
I believe in America.
I do too.
I do too.
Well, here's why a dollar has value. A lot of people say, oh, it's just a piece of paper. It's not backed by gold. It doesn't have any value. Here's like the really big value of a dollar. If you want to do any business or work in America, you need to pay taxes. And the only thing you can pay taxes with are your dollars. And that's why dollars have a ton of value. So when people say it's just paper, no, it is the only currency you can use in the strongest economy in the entire world. And that's why it's valuable.
God bless America.
Rant over.
All right, so we're going to test your guys' know-how, knowledge about U.S. currency. These aren't too hard. You guys are going to be okay. These aren't too bad. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, first question. Sacagawea has the dollar coin, but in the history of the U.S., only one woman has graced the nation's paper currency. Who was it?
It's not Susan B. Anthony.
I was all ready for my Susan B. Anthony.
I was ready for my Susie B's.
Molly Pitcher.
Who's Molly Pitcher?
She used to carry water during the Revolutionary War to people firing cannons. The Americans firing cannons, yeah.
That's nice.
It's not Miley Cyrus.
It's not. It's actually close, though. Close. Martha Washington.
Okay.
She's the only woman whose portrait has appeared on U.S. currency note. It was on the face of the $1 silver certificate in 1886 and 1891. And she was on the back of the $1 silver certificate of 1896. More than you want to know. So you guys already jumped the gun on my next question, which was, can you name another woman who has appeared on U.S. currency?
Susan B. Anthony.
Susan B. Anthony. Can you name the third?
Ooh. Wait, so Sacagawea.
Yep.
Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah, one more.
And Martha Washington. We just said that.
Oh, but one
more on
I
top
haven't
of that?
mentioned. This
Okay.
woman was on a coin, I assume, because Martha Washington was the only one on paper.
Florence Nightingale.
No, she was not associated with the government at all, or married to anyone, or even like
She was never alive.
she was made up.
It's Minnie Mouse.
It's actually Helen Keller.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, all right. What is the largest denomination note ever printed?
I'm going to say $1 million. $1 million bill.
100,000.
100,000. Morgan
Oh.
gets
I think
it.
they have one at the Smithsonian Museum of American History in D.C.
So it had it was printed in 1934 and in 35, portraits of Woodrow Wilson on the front. The notes were never circulated to the public and were used solely for transactions among Federal Reserve banks. All right. At what point in our value of coins does the coin actually become worth more than how much it costs to make it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd say
Okay.
quarter.
So it cost the mint 11 cents, 11.18 cents to make a nickel, only 5.65 cents to make a dime. A penny costs 2.41 cents. I'm going out of order. And you are correct. It is the quarter and the dollar bill where they finally are worth more than what it costs to make them. All right.
We should just round to the nearest quarter. People talk about getting rid of the penny. I say cut the dime and the nickel too.
Let's go for it. Let's
Quarter.
just do it.
Quarter. Does anyone get excited about even dimes and nickels? Like quarters, I feel like I can do something with these. I can use these for something practical.
I can get on
What are
board
you
with
gonna do-
this.
What are you going to do with a dime?
I can get on board with this.
Nothing.
Quarters.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
Let's start this campaign. Let's make it happen. All right, last question. As of September 30, 2015, how much U.S. currency is in circulation?
Ooh.
1.3 trillion.
Bro, did you know that?
I did know this.
Oh, well, jeez.
I mean, not knew it for this. I mean, I knew it because I read it. I don't know.
1.34 trillion.
Oh,
You know what I read this morning, too? This is I forget what the article is about, but 2/3 of that is outside the United States.
That was my second point I was going to
Maybe,
make.
maybe you read the same article I did this morning.
2/3 of U.S. Currency is held outside the U.S.
Right. When they caught Saddam Hussein, you know what he had on him? A gun and U.S. currency.
There you go. There's a really good episode of 99% Invisible, I believe, about U.S. currency and why it's so bland looking and plain and why it has remained so consistent throughout the years. It's very good. I recommend
I
it.
also have, I was trying to think the other day, I really don't remember where I got this, but I have a 1929 $5 bill at home. It's in a condition that you would expect of something that old, but it looks, it's smaller, a little bit smaller, and the ink is bright green. But other than that, it's identical to a $5 bill today.
Huh.
Yeah, so that's almost 100 years.
Bro, do you have any interesting money?
I don't.
You know what I also have?
Other
from
than
a
that
conference.
$2 bill that I sent you guys the other day.
That's what I was teeing you up to talk
The
about.
$2 bill signed by the actor who played the newsboy in the 80s classic Better Off Dead, known for the famous line, "I want my $2. My sister ran in California like 2 years ago and got him to autograph a $2 bill for me. I love it.
A few years ago, I went to an economics conference, and for lunch tickets, they handed out actual, real $50 trillion Zimbabwean bills, which they're worth like 50 cents or something. It says $50 trillion on it.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's what inflation does to you.